Really? I mean, well, yeah. Did you find any? When they get hard. Yeah. It's actually where all 165 used to run behind. Over there. Yeah. I was like, where did you come from? There. Creek Bar.
Are you Mr. Wright?
Yes.
How are you? I'm Candy Root. Very nice to meet you.
Yes, I
Yeah.
So we know we are. The map is over.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, Rocket J has 2 precincts, right? Well, that was strange, wasn't it? Yeah. You know, but Sharon and Ron Herbert about their votes. Oh, fantastic. Okay, I was just talking to Cheryl.
Don't worry, I'll get out of there. Come on, nothing to see you.
A lot of memories from last year. PTSD. Oh, crazy. Yeah, no, this is fine. I can do it this way. Sheriff, how are you? Yes, you said me. Looks like you're doing good.
Anybody from my awards yet?
Oh, this is the new one. Okay, I think I've seen one, like, you sent me one, like, yesterday night. It was safe.
Whatever you get. Whatever you.
Yeah, dude, I appreciate that.
You know, the pat on the back.
It is. Really?
So, everything seems to be. What do we still have? Needs to be done. I got life's covered. I've got to take care of you. So, I got 2. One is 8x10, and then the other is a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller. So. You know what? I need to check it out. We can hang it either way, I guess. Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay. Okay. Where's it gonna hang again? Yeah, I'm not coming back. I'm leaving on Thursday. Yeah, I'll be back, Monday. No, I watched a video that had all the, it gave kind of a tour, so I've seen it.
Set the clock by you, I think.
I see her attitudes.
Okay, and that's.
Okay, here's what kind of things we're
Might be doing this job.
today.
Hey, get past me that way.
You know, I told her what we discussed yesterday.
Well, you're in the uniform, aren't you?
What's up? How are you?
Good.
Well, what she was telling me. We get to the discussion.
That's about the only thing I.
What? Well, would it be better just to say? Hey, this is how we actually come back to that. What's the? Oh, we used to say two.
It was. I mean, we also had to say over
Yeah, no worries. Okay, I'll be up, no worries, don't worry about it. Like, I know you got your point on, so it's, you know,
small.
I want to say 25 under them, it's just gonna work for a long time. So. Yeah, no, I'm not expecting, I know you said I was all I'm guessing. No, I'm not. He needs to. Okay, call Nick. Okay. Oh, does he? Okay.
Not that I can't send it back. That's rare.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, right.
You know, to make sure that everybody's go.
See, I talked to Heather Oak.
You know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. Politicians use those as that. Yeah, he's Nope. Only one place.
All right. Let's call the Blanco County Commissioners Court to order. This Tuesday, February 22nd, 2022. Ask Ms. Wallace to call the roll.
Judge Bray,
Here.
Commissioner Weir,
Here.
Commissioner Eager,
Here.
Commissioner Beasley,
Here.
Commissioner Greenberg.
Here. Please join us in the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for the invocation. Precious Lord, we give you thanks for this day. Please give us guidance in this meeting. Because a lack of guidance causes the nation to fall, but victory is won for many advisors. Lord, let us not be misguided in this meeting, so that when they do not lead to decisions that produce ineffective results. I pray that you direct our steps so that this meeting can achieve our goals. We place you at the center of this. Amen.
The way the agenda is constructed this particular time, I have suggested item 4 going before public comment. But if you're not comfortable with that, we'll reverse the order and have public comment first. It's up to you.
I think that's a good idea to go ahead and keep it as it is on the agenda. That way you can give an explanation so we don't have to, so people can understand prior to making public comment.
Okay. Well, then we're going to take up item 4, and Ms. Hughes will make her way to the podium. And I'll just introduce this a little bit, and then I thought I'd just kind of pose some questions, and maybe she can fill in the blanks. We had an incident a couple of weeks ago now, almost, and 88 votes, that's the sum total of it. 88 voters received the wrong mail-in ballot. 35 Republicans received Democrat ballots. 53 Democrats received Republican ballots. Only reason for the disparity is that's who asked for ballots. 53 Democrats asked for a mail-in ballot and 35 Republicans did in this first wave, or this first batch. Shake your head, son, say it right. An incorrect ballot was sent to these people. And the Speeds got notice of this, went to the Secretary of State for counsel. And did we wait for the Secretary of State to tell us before we got these ballots were sent out by a vendor who sent out ballots for us, with a mailing list from us. The mistake was on their part. Ms. Speed sent the correct list that had 53 Democrats getting 53 Democrat ballots and 35 Republicans getting 35 Republican ballots. But as it turned out, we were the first batch. This company sends out ballots for about 80-something counties, basically a third of the state. And I think we were the very first one, probably because we're a small county and it was a small batch. And it got messed up. I mean, that's not a very technical way of saying it, that's what happened. It got reversed, if you will. And so, was it after the Secretary of State talked to you or before that we got the vendor to go ahead and fix it and send out an email?
Well, we called the Secretary of State. I say we because Jim happened to be in our office at the same time. So we called Secretary of State. Secretary of State gave us the guidance. We then had already been in contact with the vendor. Then we talked to Secretary of State. we contacted the vendor back and told us that the vendor was Secretary of State had told us to do to make it correct.
which is send the correct ballot out.
Right, so those 88 voters got a notification of a corrected ballot along with a new ballot.
So a notification of the corrected ballot, that's a letter, that's a form.
Right,
And it says notification of corrected ballot.
something to that effect.
Basically gives the recipient information that they got the wrong ballot, and here's the right one. And the right ballot has a special marking on it, so that you know it was the right ballot.
When it comes back to us, yes.
So if you get two ballots back, if I was one of those people and I got the wrong ballot and I marked and I voted for Beto, and then I got the right ballot and I voted for Abbott, and you get both of those ballots, there's a mark that tells you, because I'm a Republican registered, that I should, the one with the mark on it is the correct ballot, and that's the one that'll count.
Correct,
The other one is put aside.
correct.
And if you don't get any ballot back, the person just doesn't vote
Correct.
unless they come to early voting or they come to election day, right?
And during this ballots with them too.
And if they were to do all three, if I voted with the first ballot you sent me and I voted with the second ballot you sent me and then I went over and I voted early or tried to do that, what happens?
Well, the poll book's not gonna let you do that.
The poll book's not going to let you do
The
that
poll book's not gonna check in.
because I've already voted
Correct,
twice actually, but I voted.
correct.
And if I didn't send in any of the ballots that were sent out to me, I can vote. No,
You can, but you have to bring those
I can
ballots
bring ballots back.
for the original ballot.
Okay. Or voting provision ballot. Now, if I get a ballot by mail, it could be for a lot of reasons, one of which is I don't want to be around other people, or I'm sick, or you can think of a million reasons. And I think I asked you real recently, we have curbside voting if absolutely necessary, right?
We do,
Both last week and this week for early voting
and on election day.
and on election day. This company that did this, they ate the cost for reprinting and fixing the bad ballots and sending out the right ballots, didn't they?
They did.
And you didn't pick this company, did you?
I did, years ago.
Okay, let me back up. Did Ms. Waller use this company before you used this company?
Not to my knowledge.
Did Ms. Newman use the company before Ms. Waller?
I can't speak to that.
Okay. Where did I get the impression that this company had been servicing Blanford County for over a decade?
I've been using this company since I got here 5 years ago.
Okay. And as do 80-something other counties. And ones that don't use them probably are big counties that have their own print shops.
Maybe,
Like,
I'm not sure.
what else do you want to add to this?
I think you covered it all.
And the reason we're talking about it again today, we've put it on your websites, county websites. It's been in a press release for 2 major papers. Is we want to give another opportunity for the public to hear what happened and what's being done about it. All right?
Correct.
There are other people who requested a mail-in ballot, yes?
Yes,
And those went just fine.
yes,
Did they go from the same company?
yes.
Questions?
It's not, is it public knowledge how many you've got mail-in ballots total? Or can you,
Sure, I have the number on my head. I don't know.
is it in the 200, 300, 400?
I don't know. I mean, that is something Tony does.
I got you.
Um,
Just about the percentage of it. About the percentage of it.
So that reminds me, the epitome of customer service would have been to take those eight names, pick up the phone and call and tell them. So they know not to even send in the first ballot. Did you have phone numbers?
no,
Did you have email addresses?
no.
Did you have any, unless they were your next door neighbor or you personally knew them, did you have any way of knowing how to contact them other than the mailing address and calling their order registration?
If there was a number on the registration, but some of those numbers have been changed, so.
At least some piece of the 88 people, the way to contact them, the ready way for you to contact them was by mail.
Yes,
So the choice was send out a letter saying, I'm going to be sending you a letter, or just send the letter with the correct ballot.
correct.
And that was probably the fastest way.
And of those people, I mean, over half of those people have called us to say, you have one ballot, what happened? And so we explained to them.
Like, when you say half, that's like approximately 40 something people
Something like that.
called and say, hey, I got the wrong. And I'm sure y'all have a dialogue to happen.
Yeah.
Did you had like second calls saying, I didn't get the right ballot?
No.
Just to confirm, this error on the contractor, the vendor that we use, did not cost Blanco County to correct this error that they've done.
There's one charge that's still being debated. It's $68, I think. Kim is still arguing with them about that.
This is having to done counties besides Blanco too, with the same contractor,
Not to my knowledge.
just have you Blanco.
It just happened to us.
Well, okay, so with this contract,
This contract.
but it has happened in other counties.
I
At
mean,
least that's what they.
So when you call the Secretary of State, did it throw up a red flag for them, or was it something they heard before?
Yeah, so I was on the phone call when she talked to the Secretary of State, and the Secretary of State said you're not the only county this has happened to. And so the gentleman who answered said, you know, I'm gonna find out how we handled it with the other counties. And so when I was on the phone call, my impression was that it was the same vendor. Since then, we've learned it was not the same vendor that it had happened in other counties.
When did the new ballots go out, the second ballot with the mark on
I think they went out on February 9th, either 9th,
it? And the first ballot went out,
the second, I believe.
so there was about a 7-day delay. And when did early voting start?
On 14th.
On the 14th. So we got the corrected ballot out even before early voting started.
Correct.
What else?
I'm sorry you have to deal with this.
Nature of the beast, I guess, so. But we got it corrected, so.
Anything you want to add?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you, Christian.
Thank you for the update on the recent errors committed under the direction of the Blanco County Elections Office. Judge Gray, I emailed you and Kristen a list of questions pertinent to this failure. There are several that you have not answered this morning. Please respond to these questions. This failure reduces public confidence in the vote by mail process. However, it's not due to the abuse of the voters, it's because of administrative failures within the elections office. What is the identity of the vendor? Did the two political parties approve the vendor? What is the anticipated cost associated with using the vendor, not just the failure? Is Blanco County paying the vendor, or are the two parties paying the vendor? Has the vendor provided services to Blanco in the past? You answered that. Is there a contract in place with the vendor? What services are in the scope of the contract? Printing, envelope stuffing, mailing? Is there a penalty clause in the contract? How many of the 88 errant ballots were sent to each party's voters? You answered that. How many of the 88 identified voters have been contacted regarding the failure? Mailed them, I guess, they got it. Who contacted the voters? Blanco County, the political parties, or the vendor? What happens to the errant ballots to ensure no double voting results from the processing error? Are the ballots returned, ballots destroyed with confirmation, etc.? Why was the press release delayed until February 15th when the error was identified on February the 7th? Why was the issue not discussed during the February 8th Commissioners Court meeting when the elections officer discussed issues related to the countywide polling place program? She knew about it on the 7th, why didn't she talk to us about it on the 8th? Here's a copy of my comments for the record.
Deanne Welch.
I am Deanne Welch of Blanco County. I learned more than 2 years ago that I need to check the veracity of statements made in this courtroom, and I proceeded to do that. As soon as I learned that the incorrect ballots were being sent out. As my husband pointed out, 1 week delay impaired the ability for this court to fix the problem. I contacted a reporter at the Houston Chronicle who sent the information to the Austin Bureau. And I'm going to read you a couple of sentences reported in the Houston Chronicle. The error was attributed to a third-party printing company which was advised of a mistake 2 days after the ballots were sent. That was well before the last Commissioners Court meeting on February. The business, San Antonio-based A&G Printing, sent out corrected ballots the next day. The new ballots came with a notice of correction signed by Christian Speeds. Document reviewed by Hearst newspapers directs voters to destroy the incorrect ballot if they have not been mailed back. Aaron Gonzalez, the owner of A&G Printing, said the incident was isolated to Blanco County. The company provides services for roughly 170 of Texas' 254 counties. I do believe in truth. Whatever the truth is, I stand for truth.
Terry Casperas.
Good morning, Terry Casperas, Blanco County Democratic Party. Appreciate your conversation this morning and the information. On the evening of February 7th, I began receiving reports from voters that they were receiving vote-by-mail ballots from the wrong party, specifically Democrats receiving Republican ballots. I immediately notified Kristen Speeds of the situation. Early the next morning, that would have been the 8th, I received a message from Kristen that they had corrected the situation with the vendor, but no more detail was provided. I asked for more information so that I could stem concerns and confusion None was received, and I continue to receive calls from concerned voters with questions I could not answer, asking for information that I did not have. Subsequently, I was told that 88 voters had been affected, both Democrats and Republicans, and that this was caused by the vendor error. On February 10th, I was told that this error had occurred in other counties. That later proved not to be true, and I'll just add, because of prior comments, that on a call with both representatives of the Texas Democratic Party and the Texas Republican Party, they stated that they were not aware of this error occurring elsewhere. I asked for a meeting with Judge Bray, Kristen, and others to understand the details, and we met on February 16th, 8 days after the error occurred. At that time, all the details were shared, and I finally learned that Ms. Spies had taken all the necessary actions, that correct ballots had been sent to all the voters, that the vendors had corrected the source of the problem, and that this was isolated to Blanco County. So I commend her and others at the county who assisted Kristen for this work and for the result. I only wish I had known this earlier. I would much rather be focusing today on what was done right, and there was quite a bit done right. But the confusion and concern that occurred from the 7th through the 16th could have been easily avoided. Primary elections are the responsibility of each of the political parties. Therefore, I had not only a right to know what the facts were, but an obligation. Better initial communication and transparency would have gone a long way to avoid voter confusion and concern. I hope that is the lesson we learned in this situation. Thank you.
Let me turn to item 4 for just a moment. Ms. Spies.
Judge, may I comment on something also?
Yeah, you made this thing. You contract with the Republican Party and the Democrat Party, Blanco County, to run their primaries. One more time, correct?
Correct.
And do you have to?
No.
Do you regret it? You have to answer it. Okay, that's really all I want to clarify was that it's not really a county obligation to handle what goes on in March. Really, right?
Correct.
Do we have a contract?
We do.
And that goes through Commissioner's Court?
Resolution with the Commissioner's Court.
Okay. So the commissioners, what if the commissioners didn't want it?
Then I guess you can sign the resolution.
One thing that, Mr. Conspiracy hinted at, but he didn't really say is, he had asked for the names of the affected parties so that he could proactively reach out to them and try to, tell them how to handle the situation. There's a statute that prohibits us from giving him those names.
And do you?
So it's not that we were being, uncooperative, it's by law, we cannot provide those names to them.
Yeah, okay, and the way I remember the conversation is, he asked about it, I said, that sounds like a really good idea. And then one of the people on the telephone said, you can't do that because of this statute.
Correct.
You looked up the statute, we can't do it. It's seriously frustrating because I don't necessarily even agree with that interpretation because, and you know this, but so that the commissioners know this, because it says that information is not available to the public. had the Republican Party and the Democrat Party become contractors with us. They become business partners with us, and they are not part, in my opinion, they are not part of the Republic. And they are privy, or can be privy to that information. So I don't really agree with that interpretation, but then again, that's their business.
And we reached out to the Secretary of State to get clarification on that and followed up on that, still not heard back. I don't know if we can provide that information, but right now, the statute as interpreted by at least some of the parties says we cannot provide that. It's not public information, and so we're taking the safe way and trying to get clarification from the Secretary of State to see can we provide it.
So I don't want there to be a misunderstanding. I asked you the questions about whether you had to and whether it's really the party's responsibility. I'm not suggesting that you don't do it, because honestly, it makes sense to use the express votes, to use the process that's in place. It all works really pretty well. But I just wanted to point out that, if there's enough complaining and thoughts that we don't do it right, they can do it themselves.
And that may happen in the future, we don't know where to do it.
Yeah, well,
I mean, it's possible, we have that option. So,
okay, thank you. Item 6 is the review of the minutes previously.
We'll make a motion, we dispense with reading of the minutes, that as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Weir, discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7, line item transfers, there are none. So we move to item 8, on the outstanding bills.
Make a motion to approve the outstanding bills in the amount of $94,001.32.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Bramber, discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next is a proclamation for your consideration regarding the fact that yesterday was George Washington's day. Okay, we'll let Mr. Reed, we're going to clarify for me, but Blair Reed, a noteworthy Blanco County citizen.
Good morning, Your Honor, Commissioners. My name is Blair Reed, District 1. Thank you, Deputy. I represent the William Hightower chapter of the Sons of the American Revolution, and I'm very, very pleased that the county continues with this custom and tradition of issuing this proclamation for February 22nd, today, it's George Washington's Day. Last year, Your Honor, I stood before you and you gave me some homework. You asked me why George Washington did not have a middle name, or do you know why? Blair, do you know why, or what was going on with the middle name? So I'm like, I don't know. So I here look at middle names in that time frame, just a brief overview, were not common at all. In medieval England, they were reserved for royalty by law. Commoners could not have middle names. So as we were a British colony, the British settlers came over and continued that custom and tradition. The Germans and Swiss and Dutch had a different tradition. They had middle names. Johann Sebastian Bach, born in 1685, continues that on. As immigrants from Germany and Switzerland arrived, they generally moved to Pennsylvania, where my Swiss ancestors set up a farm. They brought in the custom of using a middle name. By the time of the Revolution in the 1760s, 1770s, 1780s, only about 5% of our population was using middle names. When we reached 1800, we had essentially a huge population explosion relative to what was going on prior to that. And the custom of using middle name, trying to figure out who John Smith was in Virginia became a lot easier with the middle name. As we went through the 1800s, middle names became more and more useful. By 1900, virtually every American had a middle name. So I appreciate the homework assignment. I'm ready for another one, Your Honor.
Couple of things that, so I guess we just do the holiday on the 21st, because it's a Monday, and we're fortunate to have a commissioner court on his actual work.
Yes, okay, yes, sir.
He was a working president, right? Never even got to live in the White House, because they hadn't built it yet. They built it, in fact, he built it, pretty much.
Well, his office was pretty much in Philadelphia, capital is Philadelphia.
Okay, while the White House was being built. And I read something in your research, maybe you can help me out. I read something that says that he worked really hard to pay off the debt, national debt at the time. And that if you calculate it in today's dollars, the debt to the French and others for our Revolutionary War is somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 5 trillion in today's money.
In today's money, yes, sir. It was substantial.
And he managed to pay all of that off in his 8 years.
It was a challenge for our young government, fled to the government. That was a part of the Constitution. The Constitution was the second piece of legislation that ran our country. The Articles of Confederation, which is what the war was fought under, was a very challenging document. It did not allow the raising of taxes and funds, and it became very, very much a challenge, which is why the Constitutional Convention and adoption of our Constitution. 3 years after that, the Anti-Federalists were pretty excited about wanting to have a Bill of Rights. So they sent out 13, only 10 of which were nationwide. But the history of George Washington's commitment of failing battle after battle after battle, trying to keep men, body and soul together, constantly running retreat for 6 or 8 years. We finally pulled up. It speaks to his persistence as a leader, persistence as a president. I have seen his copy of the Constitution. It was on exhibit at SMU some years ago. And in the margins, next to his, it's a large book, in the margins where his job came into play, he has written in the most wonderful penmanship, President does this, President, you're hooked right page, President. So he went through and listed everything that his job had to do in the job. It's a very humbling piece of work. You're right, they got a lot of money.
And would you say he was the most reluctant president of the 44 that we had?
He really was. When Congress when Congress selected him to be the first general, his first words out of his mouth were, essentially, I really don't think I'm up to the task, but I'll do my best. So how's that for confidence? In a man that's going to then go from Philadelphia to get to Boston right after the Battle of Bunker Hill, Reedsville, and take over from there.
I said 44, but today it's 45, I guess.
He was reluctant. He was reluctant to do it and did not want to keep on. He was offered a third term, and only since then has one other president at the time of the national calamity decided to continue this decided the third term. He set the precedent for no more than two.
Just to clear, so everybody there's 40. I know there's 46 today, and there's really only 45 because the baby was twice.
Okay? That is not my timeline. I need another uniform for that one.
So before you is a proclamation that I have the prerogative to sign, but I'm sure it would be welcome if anyone wanted to move to support that proclamation as part of the mission.
I make a motion to approve the proclamation declaring February 22nd, 2022 as George Washington Day in Blanford County.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner, your discussion. All in favor? Is there anything else? We're closed.
Thank goodness no more homework.
Well, I found a couple that I won't.
We'll do that offline.
All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Reed.
Who's out there?
Item 10, it's going to be American Red Cross Month next month, the month of March in much of the state. And we've been asked to, for one of our to support that cause by declaring American Red Cross Month for Black
resolution declaring March 2022 as American Red Cross Month in Blanford County.
Is there a second?
I'll say,
Commissioner Easter. Is there anyone here from the Red Cross? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Excuse me. Item 11, recently we lost a Del Moreland, and they have found a new candidate, Sarah Cox, to fill the vacancy in child protection.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Sarah Cox to be accepted as a member of Blanford County Child Protection and Family Advocacy Board to fill the vacancy left by resignation of Dale.
Is there a second? Second. Mr. Cranberry, discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Item 12, Commissioner Eager, you want to explain?
I was approached by TxDOT that there was a serious intersection at Towhead Road where you could not see the cars coming on because they had raised guardrails. What they're willing to do, I explained to them, the county didn't have any money to fix it. It was their problem. So what they're proposing to do is come in and do hot lane and level it off there, or when a car pulls up there, it can see other cars coming 290 west. With that, I would like to make a motion to accept the repairs to the entrance to Towhead Road at TxDOT.
Is there a second?
I'll say.
Commissioner Weir, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. The bids have come back for the South Annex Addition project, and Mr. Chavez is here to discuss it with us.
Scott, before you start, it looks like the microphone is turned off, so if you would just press the button. Get the green light back on.
About halfway down.
Press hold. Is it? I can't see it. Sorry.
Good morning, Judge Gray, Commissioners. Yes, we received 7 bids last Thursday. Was very excited for that, especially in these crazy busy times. But we had received 7 bids last Thursday at 3 o'clock for the expansion of the South Annex. And we had quite a range of pricing. So the prices varied anywhere from $387,000 from the low bidder to a high of $711,000 from the high bidder. So there was a huge spread through the bids. So over Friday, through the weekend, and yesterday, did my due diligence with going through a scoring criteria sheet we had developed for our 3 low bidders. So the low bid was North Star Construction out of New Braunfels. Second was Kidnall Casper out of Kerrville, and third was a company called Fleet Code out of Fredericksburg. And so going through the scoring criteria for these 3 lower bidders, went through and basically ranked them based upon proximity to location, their reputation, references, quality of work, especially on similar sized projects from the past, on-time performance records for past projects. Another one was on time of completion, so each contractor they provided gave us a calendar days to complete this project. That was incorporated as well. And as well as their bid, where they ranked in the bidding process. So going through that process, the ranking was the same as the top 3. They were North Star was number 1, Kidnall Casper number 2, Fleet Code came number 3. Really only one came within the budget that we had established back last July. I think there's an opportunity, each bid that was provided is guaranteed for 30 calendar days. And so I think we have an opportunity, if the court would like to proceed this direction, is that we can look at over the next 2 weeks to have a firm final pricing from these 3 bidders for the next Commissioners Court meeting in March. And that would be, what I would like to do is to go to these 3 and ask them to look at their bids and give us their firm, final, and best price. And also ask them for an opportunity to give us a list of anything that they see in the project that might be value engineered. Not to incorporate that into whatever final price they give us, but to give that as an opportunity for us to look at what others see in this project that we might be able to reduce costs out of the project.
So that's the definition of value engineering, what other things we might be able to reduce.
Yes, sir. So let's take, for example, the windows that are currently at the South Annex that were done, I believe 5 years ago when the facility was expanded, are from a specific company out of San Antonio. And I know for a fact that those windows are more expensive than going with a fixed window system. And so that was brought up during the bid, and at the time, we just said, hey, if you want to offer that as a cost savings measure, you can provide that into your bid, or show it as a line item to the bid. We go ahead and bid it so that everybody is bidding an apple to an apple to an apple. And so that's what I think that if we look at, and also let's go back to the windows. Those windows happen to be a very long lead time that were coming from a specific company in San Antonio. Also affected the number of calendar days that we saw contractors having in their bid for the project. And so what I'd like to do is just be able to ask them to give us things that they see that can either shorten the construction time on the project. So right now, the low bidder is looking at 175 calendar days. So probably 6.5 to 7 months. But to look at what was specified in the project to reduce calendar days, and do you see any other products that are equal to what was specified in the project that may cost us less and help in savings on the project?
When you did your due diligence the last few days, this is a question. You seem to have narrowed it down or pared it down to these 3. Did you satisfy yourself that any of these 3 would work for us?
Yes, absolutely. I think all 3 are highly competent and are eager to do the work. I found with, I'll just take North Star for one. So they're out of New Braunfels, but they're actually, their office is only about 23 miles from Blanco. So they're very close in proximity. And from what I found with this, speaking with past clients of theirs, was they really have a good subcontractor base. And what I learned was there was loyalty within their organization. And that's what I really think that the pricing reflects that the other 6 bidders are larger based construction firms and use a variety of different subcontractors and material suppliers. And they're just quite busy. And so I think the pricing reflects an inflated availability to do the work.
In the course of all of your designing and working on this project, did you take a good hard look at the existing facility?
Yes, sir. And so
which was built by Casco.
Yes, sir.
But they don't really give you, in the scoring process, they don't really give you any points, do they, for the fact that they
built previously?
No, sir, we didn't accommodate for that. As part of this familiarity with the current facility.
What would, do you have an evaluation of the current facility?
My evaluation or preference would be that, you know, the contractor that did the project the first time is gonna be highly more qualified, more competent, and probably more expeditious in doing the second project, that being an expansion, just because of their familiarity with dealing with Blanco, town of Blanco, the township of Blanco, and dealing with Blanco County as a past client.
But they're considerably higher than the first.
But they're considerably higher, and that's what I felt that maybe during a 10-day period, that we can ask them to, I'll say, sharpen their pencils. And can they reevaluate their pricing? And hopefully, maybe become a little bit more competitive where they do become more, they rise to the top.
I'm not sure that we weighted it enough in favor of the time aspect. The reason I say that is, I don't remember who asked me now, but recently I've been asked, are we gonna have this done before the November election? And some of the bidders clearly not.
Correct.
But, a couple of bidders maybe so.
Yes, our second bidder was 105 days, so we're looking pretty much 3 months.
2 to 3 months.
And I think we were anticipating potentially a start date sometime end of March, very early April, so you can kind of look at that as a timeline.
So just to go back over and repeat it, you'd like the commissioners to authorize you to go get something less than, I call it less than $5.
Yes, sir, exactly.
And present those March the 8th, they pick.
Yes, sir, and I think also look at what opportunities they see, these 3 bidders see in the project, potentially reduce some of our costs. What we're going to ask is, we're not wanting to reduce value. We're not going to undercut what was specified or any of the products, but are there other alternatives that meet the quality of what was specified? We can get sooner, and maybe cost a little bit less, so that we can look at that and evaluate that as a part of their best and final offer.
Commissioners, thoughts?
I would like to ask you if the fact that if one of them has done business with the county before and is actually worked on that project, is that part of the engineering assessment? We were talking about value engineering. Would that be a consideration?
I think that would definitely. I think they have a better insight as to, they know what systems are currently existing in that building, so they're going to be able to look at comparable products to integrate and navigate back in to a better price for us.
On availability, I know some of my friends who do it residential, their windows and doors sometimes are 12 to 16 weeks out. And I'm wondering if any of that was taken into consideration on some of these timeframes. If it isn't, do we add that on top of it? Just the thought of it, I don't know if it's going to get any better or if it's worse. I think time is money in a sense.
Yes, sir. So I'll tell you some of the conversations I had with a couple of bidders is that what we're hoping for is when a final presentation is made before the court, that potentially some type of a letter of agreement to contract with that particular company could be executed within a few days, potentially. That would release that company to go ahead and start work. And so while contracts and that all the legal aspects of bonds are gathered and put into a final contract package that may take 2 to 4 weeks. They can have things already on board. And so it's like kind of jumping the gun, just to get things done during that interim of contract review, contract signing, and they hit the ground.
Know that some of the contractors that I've talked to, at the residential side have gone to fixed glass, a lot of their construction. It's insulated fixed glass instead of having a slider or vertical window. With that, it's cutting the lead time down on the windows down, sometimes to, 4 weeks or less.
Right, exactly. I'm looking out, lines drawn, but yeah, normally a bronze aluminum frame with insulated glass is 3 to 4 weeks versus this particular company out of San Antonio that's already on the existing building was 10 to 12 weeks. That was one of the ones that gave a letter of acceptance that we're gonna go with a specific contractor. That would be one of the first things we'll do.
So it could be one of the considerations for these guys to look at.
I'm sorry, sir?
It would be one of the things they consider when they're evaluating their bid.
Yes, and in fact, that would be one of the things, I would be making my list as well of things that I could see potential cost savings and time savings, and I'll throw that out to all three to say, what do you see? Because these are things that I feel we can do to still maintain the same quality and level of value and construction, but potentially reduce cost and the time delay of materials. And we kind of play off of each other, and I would love to be able to have that to kind of look at and see, okay, where does that potentially put us? What I'm hoping is, we have one that came within that bid range, but we'd really love to have two be within that bid range.
I want to ask you about that in a second. If I had offered to build the county a shelter box over here for $100 in July, what do you think I would, if I was re-offering it today, what would I be?
You'd probably get 200.
Twice?
So, concrete, I can't tell you what the concrete cost is today, but a week ago today, concrete was $140 a cubic yard. Well, the third week of December 2021, it was $104 a cubic yard. So concrete has gone up 40% in less than 6 weeks.
Well, I guess that means you're guessing to us in July of $392 versus their bids, which range from $386 to $510. Pretty good.
A good crystal ball, so. I do think we have some level of ability to do some more cost savings. And that's where I was thrilled with the top three. And number three, I thought was a little bit high, but again, I think it's because they're not new to this area. That this particular construction company was founded in Midland, and they opened up in Fredericksburg. They also have a presence in Abilene, Texas, and so I think they're still kind of new. They've been here about 2 years, and I think they're still new. The Midland office and the Abilene office have a great reputation. So, there is no knocking Kendall Casper. They're a very good construction firm, and have done business with y'all before. So, especially in Waco, they know the facility. So, I'm just hoping that they can look at their numbers and help tie us a little bit closer. Gives a better level of comfort.
Being that they built the first one,
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure that they could probably do it again. But these other two companies, is that their primary business in the same kind of construction?
Yes,
Or
sir.
is it offshoots?
So the Fleet Coast started in the oil patch. They started doing very industrial type projects in Midland, Odessa. and basically migrated into large metal building facilities. And then it just kind of, evolved into just, general construction. And this is going back 30 years ago. So they have, evolved their business into being general contractors, but their start was highly industrial. So the North Star out in New Braunfels is really kind of all over the board. They do residential and they do large industrial wastewater treatment facilities as well. So they got a range of experiences. So.
All right.
If we need a motion, I'd like to make a motion to go back and have these three bidders review their bids and see if there's any cost savings that can be done. And if there's any other value-added engineering or anything they can consider to look into that. So that is the motion.
Consistent with its comments, so that it comes back to us by March 8th. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Eager, discussion.
So, couple of things. First off, they're gonna give their final bid based on the existing plans, and then they're also gonna show cost savings that they foresee they could present to us.
Yes, sir. Exactly.
So secondly, is the auditor final?
Anything else? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you for your time.
And thanks for all your hard work.
Absolutely, appreciate it.
Fix item 14, Commissioner Peters wanting to employ graders for the training session that's going to be held for all four prisons.
Yes, sir, I'd like to make a motion to enter into a rental lease agreement with Manners to continue use of loading graders for the education training to both gangs to be held in February 28th.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Weir, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 15 is the rental agreement for a road.
So this is the rental agreement that I'd like to present for a roller for a road project that we're working on. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the rental lease agreement with Cooper Equipment for the use of a roller for precinct 3 road project.
Is there a second?
I'll say.
Commissioner Eager, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 16, another rental agreement, different renter, but same kind of thing, having a waterfront.
Yes, sir. So I'd like to make a motion to approve or enter into a rental lease agreement with Sunbelt Rentals for the use of a water truck for precinct 3 road project.
Is there a second?
I'll say.
I think I got Commissioner Eager first. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Takes us to item 17, Commissioner Granberg.
This is a replat of lot 3, circling Rancho subdivision. And new lots to be known as 3A and 3B. It's just the normal replat, and I move that we approve the replat for circling Rancho subdivision.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Weir, discussion.
So this is not, in my opinion, a normal replat. This is actually taking one lot and grading 2, correct?
Right. But they're both within our minimum.
And they both meet all the rules and regulations.
That's correct.
I'm not sure if there's a normal replat of that, but like you, seems like mostly we see combining
2 to 1.
one more. Anything else on this one? Motion is second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Its name is literally private road subdivision, item 18.
This efforts of trying to get to the point to do the preliminary, but there are some issues that need to be resolved. And in discussion with the engineer, what they would really like to do is
Okay, are these, this first page that has 8 things, are those the 8 issues?
yes.
Okay, go ahead, sorry.
We denied the application today, but they would like to come back in 2 weeks and have all these issues addressed.
I've got a problem with it, sorry. There's numerous things. The first thing is, I don't see here where they're planning on building any roads. It looks to me like they're gonna do a deeded easement. We know in our rules and regulations, you put several tracks or more onto an easement and you build a county road, it becomes a subdivision. I know they're calling it a subdivision, but we've got these subdivisions already like this in the county. And from the past, so we'll kind of learn from that.
Well, and that's number 5 on the list of, can I call them rejection items?
Well,
You call them issues.
we could have an engineer give us more detail on that.
But, okay, but isn't what Commissioner was talking about, number 5, road through tracks 1-7 is not actually a road, it's a 30-foot non-paved easement that narrows to 15 feet? Is that your concern?
Yeah, and I guess, if it is a road, then that means it's gonna do the drainage studies, all of that stuff's gonna be a part of it. On top of that, are we mentioning next time entrance? Yes, we are. They haven't got their blessing yet, I don't think, to start. But are any water studies, are we looking at any water studies here?
I don't see it before yet.
Okay, are they doing water studies? They are. Okay.
I think we have been, so the engineer can come, give us an update on these issues.
Correct.
I don't think he has a copy. He wasn't aware of exactly what all needed to be addressed.
Obviously, addressing in order, we would like for a permit to take on, it takes some time to talk to Scott this morning, but it's busy.
Have they given you a letter of intent?
I'm sorry.
Have they given you a letter of intent saying they're going to do it?
No, we probably request that, but we just address any comments and, we're going to install it on the road in the north, in the state like we realized it with existing, so it is easy to find.
Have y'all taken the checklist for the preliminary plat and gone through and y'all, and ma'am, I ask you if have they done everything on the checklist for the preliminary plat?
They turned it in, but that's when it goes out for review to the president district. I think accepted 911 addressing and water district.
So we really don't,
These concerns.
yeah, until, we don't know if there's any concern until all those reports come back.
That is correct. I have everyone's except for the water district. Candace's concerns are attached. Kathy was good with the current road names, and she was the one brought to the attention that the road through 1 through 7 is actually an easement for the property owner adjoining them. That's how he gets to his property. And then but they were just using that as the road 4 tracks 1 through 7 were, that does not go with our current rules and regulations. It would have to be a paved road, 60-foot easement. Like I said, I have not received Bond's report back. He has been overwhelmed with vulnerability reports. I'm expecting that any day, actually, it's supposed to happen Friday.
Yeah, is there a rush for this to be done, or what's the reason we're not waiting, going through the proper? Sorry, why aren't we waiting until we get everything together?
We turned everything in, we thought we would get out there, taken care of.
Yes, sir.
The roadway approach to the cul-de-sac, it's long enough. We have front the cul-de-sac, we have a cord, 55 feet. The flag lights, excluding the flag signs, we recognize which is, so we comply with that.
Dale, can you speak up to the recording?
I'm sorry?
Can you speak up to the recording? It's hard to hear you.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, item 3 is cul-de-sac and track 14 has no measurements. All I do is make on there. It complies with your regulations.
I think I can try to speed this up a bit for you.
Okay.
You've seen all the 8 things that.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is the first time we're seeing these.
Okay. Now that the legislature has narrowed the window from 60 days to 30 days, Commissioner Morgan's back. So the thing to do is, use either approve or deny. And if you deny, that gives you an opportunity to go back and fix those. Does that sound right? It's okay with you? Okay. Then that's what I would recommend.
Yes, that's was my first comments. The last day, give us an opportunity to come back and fix all these issues and bring it back next week.
Is that a motion? Is there a second?
I'll say.
Commissioner Eager, discussion.
Is there any other, once it's denied and, when they have to, when they do, they start the whole process over as far as, fees and, newspaper?
I think that's up to your discretion. I think that's up to your discretion. I'm not aware that they have to start over from square one.
Okay. So then I'm fine with the way Paul's motion read.
Okay, that's a question about the plan. Do y'all plan on paving roads, Bill County, paving roads?
Taxpayer road commissioner, yes.
Yes, paving.
We're trying to set a full social plan for the roads and
So you want
County State Road before we apply with the first section inside. Very nice.
okay, and you'll have instructions on all that stuff. All of them.
So what if I'm wrong and he doesn't need to re-advertise and
So the way Paul's motion read, then that would not be sufficient, you would have to just reapply.
he's denied?
We're denying today, the way Paul's motion was to let it come back in 2 weeks with these changes. So it might not be 2 weeks, it might be a longer period.
You think you'd be ready to address it all?
Yes.
Will you have an answer from text outline? Will you have an answer from text outline? Okay. If you can't get the permit to come out, I would.
Yeah, that's part of the requirements, you've got to have a not just a letter. I've denied somebody, I'm asking for a letter, I've got to have a permit, but.
We could do it this way, we could, operate on Commissioner Harrington's motion the way it is, thinking that it's okay, that the advertising's okay, and the fees are okay, and then we just come back. And if that's not the case, conditionally as part of his motion, we start the process of, if required to by law. Is that, so you're willing to make that part of your motion? You willing to make that part of your second?
Yes.
All right, is that, suit you? What else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. It is currently denied. Thank you. See you in the center. Item 19.
I would like to ask Matt to come up here and give us a speech on this. since he drove all the way into Blanco this morning, just looking on fires. Wanting to talk about fires.
Judge Commissioners. So in reference to the burn ban, first I want to say I was back in Judge Bray's decision on the proclamation due to the wildfire threats especially on Saturday. Currently, I do recommend that we extend the proclamation for several reasons. So the burn ban expired on February 9th, and since then we had 22 fires, so that's 22 fires in just 13 days. Out of that was 165 acres burned and 35 hours of manpower on those. EMS had responded to 4 of the 22 times per policy, there was 3 more agencies on scene. Saturday alone, we had 6 fires totaling 55 acres and a total of 11 hours on scene. No TFS is predicted in Webster some precipitation for the next few days. The total for through Friday is only 4 inches. There's also the next 5 days, wind speeds about 40 miles per hour. So even with a little bit of rain coming and the lack of rain in the past 2 hours, it's still very dry and the threat is still very high. So the reason I say extend the proclamation versus burn ban is Johnson City had several units that were damaged during the fire. Most of them were fixed quickly, but this will allow for state fund or government funding.
A couple of things. Would you recite all of the partner agencies that came into Blanco County during the 22 fires?
Yes, so for Saturday alone, which Saturday is a big wildfire threat, fire started about 11:30 that morning and ended about 8 o'clock that night. The biggest fire for most of the season was Fall Mountain Trail Fire in Albert 303. That involved Blanco Fire, Stonewall, Little City, Harbor, Wells, Fredericksburg, Teatham was there to achieve area, started fighting EMS. So before that, Toad Valley Road Fire at Johnson City, Blanco, Stonewall, and Marble Falls. So, and Yager Creek had Blanco, Red Mountain, and Johnson City, and Old Marble Falls Road had Marble Falls, Blanco, Marble, and Red Mountain. So over Saturday, almost every fire but 2 had 3 or more agencies attended.
Starflights, they pick up water and they will drop.
So Starflight was notified Saturday due to, it was the last fire of the day, so the first responding unit was myself, and there was no other fire trucks available, because they were all coming in from other areas. So Starflight was requested, there's 3 houses in danger of burning down.
My question is, they take the helicopter, they pick up water and they go drop it on the fire.
Correct.
Are they not the only one in Central Texas that can do that?
Unless you request a TFS asset to do so.
Yeah, but I mean, not any other medical help.
No, that's right.
This is the only one.
Yes.
Okay.
Questions?
Is there a time frame, length of time proclamation?
Yeah, well, the disaster declaration, I don't think there is a disaster declaration, actually. I think the choices are, and don't go away with me on which is. You can do nothing, if you do nothing, the disaster declaration expires Friday. The disaster declaration lasts 7 days, I did it on the 2nd. You can rescind the disaster declaration, and it goes away right now. You can extend the disaster declaration, it goes on for really indefinitely until you take it off. But remember that it covers more than a burn ban does. And you can rescind the declaration and create a burn ban. The difference being the disaster declaration is pretty severe. It pretty well limits welding. I think one of the fires was started by grinding. Actually, one of the grinding fires.
That's correct. 2 fires from Saturday, one was from welding. We had a shield on. By the time you noticed the fire, it was 35 acres, and the next one was cutting the grinder. Fire.
So, and the disaster declaration, I believe the wording is sufficient to cover those things, but normally a burn ban would not.
In our burn ban regulations, though, isn't there something in there about welding and they have to have a spotter?
Have a spotter and welders.
That's correct.
Do they have to notify y'all that they are welding or they don't?
So in the disaster declaration, it prohibits.
I don't think they call it spotters.
At the moment it does.
So any fence builder, well, pretty much out of a job.
If it causes our case, the way it's written.
Prohibit shredding.
Sorry?
Prohibit anybody shredding.
Well, I don't know, but I mean, no, I don't know, it's like, that shredding is really gonna create more.
Yeah, it does. In this trial, it really does. I don't know if it matters or not. That fire started from people mulching secret.
It's one of the options we could extend.
It is.
So I understand where you're trying to go with the trucks that were damaged, during that time. I don't know what the severity of the damage was done.
I'm not for sure, I just knew during that operation we're eligible for like being alive.
If we get over our threshold,
Yeah,
with our threshold still 37,000, so.
it is, it's just if a wildfire was happening today, and it was last, 4 operation periods, the operation expired, we voted not to continue it, and we're able to save on the card, they're fine, eligible for reimbursements. But there is still the option of burn ban, which.
However, I would hate to keep the declaration in place and prevent people from doing the right thing and with their spotter like they're supposed to, and I understand, I don't know who was doing it, if it was a professional or it was just a homeowner, or what, but I would hate to put somebody out of a job.
No,
Due to a declaration.
I think it's like, I didn't burn bans. Yeah, I think a lot of conditions are still very dry. I know there's a little bit of rain and work, that's not like it's enough. to get what we need to. But I agree with your listener, I don't want anything on over the minutes or sure. We were just fortunate last week that the red flag went through the reservation and people were running, I think there was a red flag on Friday, Saturday.
So I typically don't do this, but however, I'm gonna make a motion to install the burner until March 22nd on the, which will be our Commissioner's Court second next month.
Yeah.
So with that being said, that would let the judge's proclamation expire Friday.
Yeah, but you can rescind it today and just leave the permit. It's part of your motion.
So I'll go ahead and do that. Rescind it and then initiate the burn bans effectively and revisit it March 22nd.
I'll say that.
We need to get a time on March 22nd.
9 a.m.
That's, yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tommy did yours.
I heard we did it, right? But
All right, so, you're all talking. I heard a motion, you said, there's a comment.
I'm just saying.
There's a discussion. I'm gonna have to craft a permit order after we leave today. And we've done different ones over different times, some of them are shorter, some of them are longer. I've heard one when it talks about welding, GRB, suppression, that sort of thing. So I'm gonna look for that one and go with that. And it's a standard one that we use for, put out by Texas Association of Counties. So if that's, gets your preference, that's what we'll do. I think the motion passes, all in favor say aye.
Before y'all vote, may I use, I'm sorry, Chris, if you put it to expire at 9 a.m., that's when we convene. If y'all don't discuss this until 10 o'clock, 10:30, as it is now, someone can start a fire.
We can do noon.
Modification is, all in favor say aye. All opposed. Motion carries. Which takes us to the agenda item. like authorization to engage Allison Bassett regarding the replat measures. I think in general, way to describe it as generally speaking, and it relates to something that I was talking about earlier about the typical replat is a combined of plots. We had a replat where there was we've seen replats, and I think the general question on the table is, you replatted and you combine lots, and now you want to unreplat and not combine them. Is that the same process? There's some reasons to think it's not. We've taken the position that it's not, but we'd like to hire Allison Bassett to render a formal opinion to this effect.
We would really like to hear that.
So if anybody is interested in authorizing them to engage the and personal role of the budget to do so, then I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to authorize the county judge to engage Allison Bass and McGee regarding replat measure.
Is there a second?
Second.
Very further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. I don't think there's anything else out other than item 20.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Mr. Greenberg, discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.